What's going on, everybody? Paul Tech here, and welcome to my full review of the Alcatel 3V. Now, the 3V is a unlocked smartphone for all GSM carriers. It retails right now for about $149.99 off of Amazon. I've been using this device for the past 3 weeks, so I'm going to share with you my experience, and let's kick this off with design and build. To the right-hand side, you have a tray there, which does house your SIM card. You can also input a micro SD card to expand the storage, and you have a textured power button. To the left-hand side, you have your volume rockers there. And when it comes to the placement of power button, it is in a pretty good place. I really have no issue reaching it. And the same thing with the volume rockers, and they do feel pretty tactile and responsive. And take a look at the bottom of the Alcatel 3V. We got a single down-firing speaker to the far left, micro USB charging port, and then your microphone to the far right. Now, when it comes to the audio that's coming out of that single down-firing speaker, I would say it's just about average. The placement is okay in my opinion. I don't mind a single down-firing speaker. Much better placement than if it was on the back of the device. But like I said, it's just about average. And when you do put the audio on max volume, it can sound kind of tinny as well. But here is some audio sample coming from that single down-firing speaker. And take a look at the top of the Alcatel 3V, we have a noise cancellation mic, and then we also have a 3.5mm headphone jack. Now, when it comes to this headphone jack, it is actually very good. All the headphones that I did plug in sounded excellent. I had no issues hearing music out of that headphone jack, so it's really good in my opinion. And take a look at the back of the Alcatel 3V. You're getting a dual camera setup here. So a main 12 megapixel camera and a secondary 2 megapixel camera, LED flash. You got a fingerprint sensor on this, Alcatel branding, and a non-removable 3000 milliamp hour battery. Now with this back cover here, it is pretty reflective, as you can see there, very glossy. It is going to be picking up some fingerprints, but there is an included case with the purchase of this, which is a nice bonus. It's going to help protect your Alcatel 3V. So overall, when it comes to design and build, I think Alcatel did a fantastic job, and the device does feel very good in the hand. Move on and talk about that fingerprint sensor now. Now, in my experience in the past 3 weeks, it's actually been a very good fingerprint sensor. It's pretty reliable, unlocks each and every time. I really have no issues with the fingerprint sensor. Now, you also have facial recognition on this, and the facial recognition actually works extremely well. It might even be faster than the fingerprint sensor. It unlocks each and every time, even in low light environments. I did notice the facial recognition does unlock, and like I said, it is a good security feature to have, and it works how it's supposed to very well. Now when it comes to 4G LTE connectivity, I've been using this on Cricket Wireless, Metro PCS, AT&T. I got 4G LTE connectivity, so again, this is unlocked for all GSM carriers. When it comes to call quality on the Alcatel 3V, I didn't really have much issues there either. The callers said they heard me perfectly fine, didn't really suffer from any type of drop calls or anything like that. When it comes to text messaging, sending out emails, the keyboard is actually pretty good on the Alcatel 3V. So if you're the type of person that does send a lot of text messages out, emails, you shouldn't have any issues there. And the autocorrection actually works very good also. And as you can see, those are, some of the different emojis that are on the Alcatel 3V's keyboard. Moving on to the display now. So you are looking at a 6-inch IPS LCD capacitive touchscreen. It does have that 18:9 aspect ratio as well. Comes in with a resolution of 2160 by 1080 with about a 402 pixels per inch count. Now with this display here, I actually like this display. I think it does produce some nice colors. You get some pretty good viewing angles on this as well, and pretty much all the wallpapers are going to look pretty nice. Also get some pretty good outdoor visibility with this display. Now when it comes to watching YouTube videos, the highest resolution you're going to be able to watch YouTube videos is going to be at 1080p at 60 frames per second. So that's the maximum resolution. So when it comes to what's powering the Alcatel 3V, you are getting a quad-core processor, the MediaTek MT6735 and the Mali T720, and 2 gigs of RAM. And when it comes to the sensors that are available, as you can see, these are the different sensors that the 3V does have. But most importantly, this does have the gyroscope, the gyro sensor. And moving on to the home screen. So you are running a launcher on the 3V out of the box. It's actually called Joy Launcher. The launcher isn't all that bad, but you do get some rather large application icons. So you can always download Nova Launcher. I actually downloaded Nova Launcher. You can see it on my app drawer. You also have the option to either have the on-screen buttons totally disabled, or you can have the on-screen buttons visible there. I personally like them hidden. And then just going on to overall performance, and when it came to downloading applications off the Google Play Store, applications that I typically use on my other smartphones, all the apps downloaded perfectly fine, no issues there. Now, when it came to just day-to-day performance, the simple task, the Alcatel 3V seems to do pretty good. Phone calls, text messages, Google search, maps ran pretty good. I didn't really have any issues there with it losing my location. The only areas where I did notice, I think it's more with that 2 gigs of RAM. Once you start throwing too much applications at this, you have too much apps open in the background, you're gonna start noticing that slowdown and that sluggishness. And just to be completely transparent with you guys, it doesn't take a whole lot of applications open for that to happen. So as you can see here, this is probably the max amount that I would recommend to have open in the background, because I'm telling you, you're going to probably see that really slow performance, and you definitely don't want to have that experience. I mean, you're still going to be able to multitask, run 2 applications side by side. Again, I'm a pretty heavy user. I throw a lot at my smartphones, but if you're a light to moderate user, this might be not an issue for you. Now, when it comes to pulling down the status bar, I'm going to show you all the different quick toggles that you have available. A lot of good stuff that I see here, and a lot of stuff that I actually use. Jumping into settings here, I'll just kind of share with you a little bit. Now, when it comes to connecting to Wi-Fi, this can connect to the 5 gigahertz Wi-Fi, which is great. Bluetooth connectivity was perfectly fine. No NFC on this. And jumping into display, you got that navigation bar feature. And this is a feature I really do like, because you can hide the navigation bar. You can change the background color. And this is an option under settings that, you should definitely check out if you are going to purchase this. You got mirror vision as well. And this is something else where I highly recommend, changing up the picture mode. For me personally, I like Vivid. It gives it a more saturated type of look, but you can always go to standard or your own user mode. You also got dynamic contrast as well, and as you can see with it on and off, the screen gets a little bit more dimmer. So I like it on. It just, like I said, it makes the display look a little more vibrant. Now, moving on from there, you also got adaptive brightness, night mode on this as well, device rotation. You can change the font size, display size. You got a notification LED light on this. You can remove the carrier display, so you have that available as well. And then see what else we got here. Security and location, again, fingerprint sensor, facial recognition, and both work very well. And then moving on from there, we'll go ahead and jump into internal storage. So you are getting 16 gigabytes of internal storage. But again, if that's not enough for you, you can always input a micro SD card to expand that internal storage. And then when you do input your micro SD card, you have the option to use that SD card as internal storage / adoptable storage. So that's actually pretty good in my opinion. And next, I'll go ahead and jump into advanced features, because you get some good options here as well, like a quick launch of the camera, double tap to wake the screen, a one-handed mode on this as well. So all you gotta do is press on the home button twice, and it'll shrink down your display. So if you got smaller hands, this can be very useful, since this is a pretty long display. And moving on from there, going into About Phone, as you can see, April 5th, 2018 security patch, and this is running Android version 8.0 Oreo out of the box. So this is pretty good to see here. We got 8.0, and hopefully we will get future updates from Alcatel on the Alcatel 3V. And moving on to the Geekbench 4 test, I did run the test. Single core score 647, multi-core score 1,827 for the Antutu benchmark test. For those that are interested, 42,435. Now, when it comes to gameplay on the Alcatel 3V, I would say the Alcatel 3V can definitely handle a lot of the less demanding type of games. It did perfectly fine with Temple Run as well as Subway Surfers. I mean, I did notice the occasional drop in frame as well as some slow loading times. Playing a more popular game like PUBG, I was able to play it, but on the lowest settings, so just kind of keep that in mind. I mean, I definitely wouldn't be playing like really high graphic intense games, but you can definitely gameplay on the Alcatel 3V. And moving on to the cameras now. So again, a 5 megapixel front facing camera. You also get an LED flash to the front to help in those low light selfies. Now with the front facing camera here, I think it actually can produce some pretty nice photos and some decent videos. That front facing flash definitely does reduce a lot of the graininess when you are taking photos in low light. Moving on to the dual camera setup to the back now. 12 megapixel plus a secondary 2 megapixel camera. You got LED flash in this as well. Shutter speed can be a little on the slow side, especially when you have HDR enabled, because it does take some time to process the photo, as you can see there. But taking stills is perfectly fine. It can produce some nice photos. Shooting video here, the highest resolution is going to be 1080p at 30 frames per second. You might notice some focus hunting here and there when you are recording videos, but to be honest with you, the best photos and videos are going to be in good lighting scenarios outdoors. You should be perfectly fine there. You also get some additional settings here like time-lapse and portrait. Now when it comes to that portrait mode, it was kind of hit and miss. Sometimes I would get a nice blur effect to the background, and other times I just couldn't get it with the camera. But I'm going to go ahead and share with you some camera samples shot on the Alcatel 3V. Alright, before I end this full review on the Alcatel 3V, I definitely want to talk on battery life. So again, you get a 3000 milliamp hour non-removable battery, and the battery life typically could get me through an entire day. There were some days, just depending on how much I was on the 3V, that I did have to top off before the end. And typically I was getting anywhere between 3.5 and 4 hours of screen on time. But that's pretty much it. That is my full review, my experience of using the Alcatel 3V. And again, I think Alcatel definitely did nail it with the design and build. Fingerprint sensor, facial recognition is great. Cameras can use some polishing, micro USB charging on this. Would have liked to see Quick Charge 2.0 for some faster charging times. Display does look pretty good there with that 18:9 aspect ratio. MediaTek processor, 2 gigs of RAM. You guys know how it is. But again, this was the full review, my experience. If you guys did enjoy it, please hit the thumbs up button. And please subscribe to the channel for more future video. And hopefully this video did help you out. This is Paul Tech, and I'll talk to you on the next one.